Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going over the Space Marine DLC for Battlefleet Gothic that's just come out in the past couple of days. So I'm going to be just jumping in, showing you the Space Marine stuff, showing what they have to offer. Hopefully I'll give you some information and convince you to play the glorious Space Marines for the Emperor Brothers. So let's jump in and let's see what we've got. So straight away, as you can see, we've got Space Marine tab over here to the right. It lists the advantages and disadvantages. Space Marines for me are my new favourite fleet just because of this here, the assault action. I love the assault actions. When I was playing the Imperial Navy, I used to always use my ships to ram and rip the enemy apart, and then when I switched to Orcs it was all about the assault actions, because I'm one of these kind of players who likes to get very close with ships, like go toe to toe with them and start basically brawling with other ships. I'm really not a fan of range combat in this game, so I'm very glad that the Space Marines did have the assault actions as one of their plus bonuses. So when you actually come to start a new fleet now, you'll see this screen here. What it basically does, you'll have a choice of starting a fleet with one of the 5 chapters. So you can see Ultramarines, Imperial Fist, which is my fleet, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and Blood Angels. Now this for me was really fun because I didn't expect the devs to actually do this. I thought they were just going to give us a standard Space Marine fleet and then the favours actually be the actual chapters themselves. But it's not that. You know, each chapter has can select all these different favours, which we'll get into later in the video and stuff like that. So you basically select your fleet you want to go in, and then you can customise it to your liking, which is really cool. I really like that. Really thankful they went that route. And here we are at the Space Marine, well, the Imperial Fist Space Marine fleet window. One cool thing I like about this, different fleets have this. So since I'm Imperial Fist, this is the Phalanx in the background. Well, it's supposed to be the Phalanx. I think it's a bit too small, sorry devs. I think it's a bit too small to be the Phalanx, but this is supposed to be the Phalanx. If you take the Dark Angels, you get the Rock in the background, which is absolutely massive. If you take the Ultramarines, I think you get Ultramar. Sorry, not Ultramar. Macragge. Space Wolves get Fenris, and I do not know what the Blood Angels get, so I'll probably have to test that out later. So anyway, the actual ships we have similar to the Imperium setup. You have a transport ship, you have your escort ships, you have your light cruiser, you have your cruiser, but instead of the next tier of battle cruiser, you just go battleship. So once you reach level 6 up here, it will give you access to a battleship. And then once you get to the end at level 8, it will give you a second battleship. So it cuts out the battle cruiser and allows you to take 2 battleships. Now you can take 2 battleships in a 1 vs 1. I'm still experimenting the actual perfect loadouts to take doing that 1 vs 1. But so far they seem to not have a lot of firepower when you can get swarmed by a lot of ships. So I'm still playing around with that. So the escort ships we have here, we have the Hunter Destroyer, which as you can see here, I've kitted it out with improved auger array because I want to scout ships before they engage me. We have the Nova Frigate, and we have the Gladius Frigate. Now, moving on to the light cruisers, like I stated at the start, the Salt Marines have very good boarding actions, and they have this new feature here called boarding torpedoes. Now, what boarding torpedoes allows you to do, if you can scout the enemy ship before they can see your fleet, you can fire these boarding torpedoes from anywhere on the map, absolutely anywhere on the map, and it will home in to that spotted ship. That's why it's so important. I'm getting my escort ships to be like more or less a scout ship, because I can keep my Space Marine fleet on one side of the map and basically fire boarding torpedoes to soften them up, and they actually do a hell of a lot of damage. They can really damage your ships. We move to the cruisers. The cruisers over here, as you can see, I've got the Chapter Master favour on here. I'm still building up my fleet, but I've got the Chapter Master fleet on here. Again, I've got the boarding torpedoes. I've actually added void shield generators to mine because the actual Space Marine shield generators are not that very strong, and they can buckle under a lot of fire. So if you are taking Space Marines, just a word of warning that the shields do go out quite fast if you are coming under a lot of fire. So you may want to take stuff like void shield generators. Again, I've took my belt armor as well, just in case something else gets destroyed, and you know, it doesn't really affect me straight at the start of the game. So let's jump into the favors and let's see what the favors they had. Let's do it on the battle badge because it's a lot more cooler that way. So favors straight away. So you have the Master of Sanctity, you have the Chief Librarian, Master of Forge, and Chapter Master. Now over here, the Master of Sanctity, as you can read, the Master of Sanctity is the head of the chaplaincy in the chapter and the head of the chapter cult. He oversees the spiritual health of the chapter by assigning chaplains to the companies. So if we click on this, you can actually see what the favors give. So it gives the favor, the ship is immune to enemy assault actions for a limited period. So what this does, if the enemy's trying to board you, you can basically activate this favor and it will basically make you immune to boarding actions, which is really vital if you you know, you come across stuff like orcs who have also got strong boarding actions and also come against other Space Marine players. So that is kind of a good favor. I'm debating whether to get that on my battleship or put it on my cruisers. I'm still torn on that. You have the Chief Librarian. Now the Chief Librarian is the strongest and most physically attuned librarian of the Space Marine chapter. His century-long studies and experience gathered on thousands of battlefields make him the advisor to his chapter and commanders. So what bonus does it give? Now this, I actually find this really fun. If you use the Fear the Darkness bonus, if you use this, it can basically trigger a mutiny on the enemy ship. So for going against Imperium players and other Space Marine players and stuff like that, I don't think it would really matter. But if you're going against Orcs and they don't have the Squig on Chains, I think it's called, the buff, and you can trigger this, you can basically wipe out or basically send an Orc fleet into retreat without even firing a single shot, theoretically. So that is an interesting favor. I don't think I'd take it on any of my fleets because I don't think it's really worth it to just use on orcs. I'd probably use other favors, but it is a kind of a fun favor. So yeah. So let's move over to the Master of the Forge. The Master of the Forge is an honoured title with great responsibilities given to the Chief Weaponsmith of the chapter. These senior ranking tech marines are charged with the maintenance of their chapter's fleet armed vehicles. Their knowledge of arcane sciences are refined over centuries and now rivals that of the most senior tech priests of Mars. Oh, I think they'll have something to say about that. Well, anyway, basically it's just like having the tech priest on the Imperium ship. It gives you an additional upgrade slot to the ship. Now again, this is probably one of the strongest ones if you're using battleships or, you know, the higher upper tier classes, because actually having extra upgrade slots is a must. You know, if you have one extra upgrade slot that can give you just a little bit more in battle over someone else, you know, it's like a must pick more or less every time. Like I said at the start, when I do the favors, I think I'm going to go between Master of the Forge or Master of Sanctuary on my battle badge, just because the bonus it can give just give me an extra point. And lastly, let's move to the Chapter Master. Now, the Chapter Master is the warrior leader of the Space Marines. A Chapter Master possesses centuries of battle experience and is highly skilled in tactics, leadership, and all kinds of combat. Now, the actual bonus it gives the Chapter Master is, I've actually got it on here, which I was just testing it out, but I don't think I'm going to go with it with any other ships. But it basically gives you a stance mechanic. So it allows the ship to switch between stances. The Finest Warrior stance raises troop value of the ship to reduce enemy troops against assault actions. So if you have the Finest Warrior stance, it will basically help you out with enemy boarding actions and stuff like that. The Commander stance basically improves the lock-on, reload, and brace for impact effect. So that's if you're going to go for more like range and you're not too worried about assault actions and you want to put some fire down, you'd go for the Commander stance instead. Yeah, like I said, I think the most strongest ones out of these are the Master of Sanctity and the Master of Forge. Chapter Master is okay. I've actually been testing it a bit. It's okay, but I think I'm going to change it to Master of the Forge because I'd rather have the extra ability to protect my ship. You know, add more void shield generators or, you know, more long range auger specs and stuff like that. So I think I'm going to be changing from that. But all in all, the Space Marine fleet is very fun. The ships themselves, If we go to this here, we'll just go to stats and we'll replace. They have a number of different ships now. The Mark 1 ships is what I've been using. I'm going to be changing this to a Mark 1. They have the boarding torpedoes. Now, once you get the torpedoes, you use a skill here to upgrade it to the boarding torpedoes. And I find that most of the Space Marine players are actually playing with this tactic where they fire their boarding torpedoes, and it is really a quite strong tactic. I think it may get nerfed because the amount of damage you can put on ships without even engaging at the moment is just absolutely brutal. I was playing the last match before, and before this chap reached me, I more or less had his entire fleet burning. Like, they were completely burning, and there wasn't even a scratch on my fleets. So I suspect a nerf, but until then, fire away, guys. Just absolutely fire away. This is probably the best to go for. If you're the Mark II, again, you get rid of the torpedoes, and it adds an ordnance launch bay. Basically, it allows you to have fighters and Thunderhawks and stuff like that. Mark III, it will give you a... Here it is. It's the bombardment cannon. No, wait, hang on. Yes, it's the bombardment cannon. Now, the bombardment cannon is located at the front of the ship. It's basically just a big cannon, and hits them very hard. But again, you have to really get into range to, for that to be effective. So that's why I've more or less been going with the torpedoes and the escort ship, spotting them and firing them from a distance. Now, if we move up to the cruisers, just like before, if we go to replace, it's basically just the same as the light cruisers, but more beefed up. Again, I've gone with the torpedoes, just for the facts I was stating before. I can obliterate an enemy. So yeah, all in all, the Space Marine fleets are a brawler fleet. You have to watch out for how much damage you can take. The tactic at the moment, I would suggest, is boarding torpedoes from a distance. If you're doing 2 versus 2, if you want to get your friend in, make him go Imperium and have the Inquisition favor, because that way he can actually spot the ships right at the start of the game, and you can start firing straight away. That's a tactic I've been using with some friends, and it is absolutely brutal. But all in all, really enjoying the fleet. I'm really enjoying that you're very up close and personal fleet, and yeah, really enjoying it. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you all again. Bye bye.